House resumes. This concludes the debate on the supplementary estimates. The estimate shall now be referred to the Committee of Supply of the whole House. I didn't hear that. I'm lost. I haven't understood. Okay. Okay. It's very easy for me. I'm pre-Alzheimer's. Okay. So House resumes. And I have to report that the supplementary estimates have passed through the Committee of Supply with a few amendments. The question is that the supplementary estimates for $704.28 be approved. Those in favor? I 248, it has to change. So, and I said it's 248,704,000. No, $991,704.28. That's correct? Right. So let me repeat it. The question is that the supplementary estimates for $248,991,704.28 be approved. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The appropriation, the amount has been approved. So we'll follow immediately with the Supplementary Appropriation Act. That's done.
Madam Speaker,
okay, so
I move that the bill shortly entitled Supplementary Appropriation 2017-2018, number 2, Act 2018 be read the first time.
Supplementary Appropriation 2017-2018, number 2, Act 2018.
The bill has been read the first time. Sorry, a second.
Well, we can go, it's okay.
Okay. Second time.
Madam Speaker, I move the second reading of the bill shortly entitled Supplementary Appropriation 2017-2018, number 2, Act of 2018.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
The bill, we don't have the bid, do we? No. So we're going straight to House. of the whole House to be considered clause by clause. and I have to report that the bill shortly entitled the Supplementary Appropriations Act of 2018 passed the committee stage with several amendments. The question is that the report of the committee on the bill be adopted. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Now we have the third reading.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Supplementary Appropriation 2017-2018, number 2, Act 2018, be read a third time and passed. Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the Supplementary Appropriations Act 2017-2018, number 2, Act of 2018, be read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a third time.
Supplementary Appropriation 2017, number 2, Act 2018.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly.
Madam Speaker, I move the second reading of the bill shortly entitled Foreign Account Tax Compliance, United States of America Act 2018. Seconded.
As an point of order.
Yes?
It's 58-2.
Pardon?
58-2.
58-2. Yes. Yes.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I'm assuming that in response to my reason for objection, maybe the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, will explain if based on what I'm about to say. The 58-2 allows for delay of the second reading of a bill. I'm suggesting that this bill, the second reading, be delayed until for 21 days or for the next sitting of the House of Assembly, whichever is longer. Why? I'm about to say why, yeah. I say this, Madam Speaker, because it's a very big piece of legislation. There are some new terms in there. I've read it myself, but not once, only once. And I see in there, Madam Speaker, serious implications. Basically, it's a very short bill, but the bill provides for the enforcement of an agreement between the government of Dominica and the United States of America. The agreement is contained in there. But, Madam Speaker, from what I've seen, it has serious implications for Dominican citizens residing overseas, particularly in the United States, who hold accounts in Dominica, but the account has attached to it a U.S. address. That is what I understand the bill to be. Maybe the Prime Minister in his response will clarify that. Because the intent of the bill I have no objection to. The intent, if a country feels that they need to collect tax revenue from outside because of whatever reason, and it's a form of controlling and maintaining and avoiding money laundering, etc. That's important. That's all internationally. However, Madam Speaker, we have thousands of Dominicans residing overseas, including America. Myself, my children are all overseas. They hold joint accounts in America and here. They are highly qualified people, so they have residence. I'm sorry? The American citizens, they're resident. I myself was a resident citizen. I gave up my resident citizen 10. Look, can I just continue, please, Madam Speaker? No, I'm not. No, I'm doing myself. I'm just explaining, and I'm using myself as an example. And I was an American resident for 10 years, almost 10 years ago. I gave it up voluntarily. All my brothers and sisters overseas, and we know that there are many cousins, nephews, sisters. Even the in terms of the religious organizations, they have some of them. Their parent is in the United States, and they provide assistance to these organizations down here, and they have attached to their accounts, in some cases, American addresses which this bill speaks to. They're dealing in real estate, dealing with lawyers, attorneys, in terms of business transaction. They have also accounts they may have with an American address, an American address related to it. So my understanding of the legislation is this. It seeks to allow the, without debating the rule, because the rule calls for non-debating, it's just to explain and why I'm justifying it. No, I'm not debating, I'm just pointing, I'm just trying to justify why I'm asking for the delay. I'm not asking for the complete withdrawal, I'm just asking for the delay, so that the government can give residents of Dominicans residing overseas, which this bill will impact, an opportunity to know what is in there, what the implication for them, and by so doing, one, whether this bill has been posted and how long it has been posted on the government website, whether the embassies overseas are aware of this bill and they have done something to inform Dominicans overseas with respect to that bill and things of that nature. So I'm not asking for the withdrawal of the bill. All I'm asking is for the delay, so that the people that will be impacted by this piece of legislation are aware of it, and that they know that when they're doing business with, if they're residing in the United States, they're resident of the United States, etc., they are aware of it and they do it properly. That's all I'm asking for, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Prime Minister will reply.
Madam Speaker.
Not that is requiring a reply, but I want to know.
I also reply. I also respond because I say, Madam Speaker, if the Foreign Account Tax Compliance of the United States, which is short for FATCA, or abbreviated FATCA is short for it, has been around for many years now. This is the reality of the world we're living in. This is the reality in the world that we as small countries are living in. That there are decisions that will be taken, either with consultation with you or no consultation whatsoever. And therefore we have really no choice but to proceed with it, or else there will be impositions which will have an existential threat to all of us in Dominica. This legislation deals exclusively with people who are holders of American citizenship. It will not affect a Dominican citizen who is not an American citizen. And if you're an American citizen, you're obligated under the laws of the United States of America to respect the laws. This is part of the United States legislation. This is part of the United States legislation. It was passed by Congress. So every American citizen must respect. And this is, and just for the information of this House, Madam Speaker, this has been imposed on the whole world, on the entire world, including the European Union, who have to pass a similar legislation in the respective countries to give effect to that imposition by us. And it is done, in all fairness to the United States of America, it is done in many respects for good reason. It's done for good reason. The United States of America has an obligation to itself to protect its country from whatever it determines it might be a threat to its country, whether financial, economic, or otherwise. And so failure to do so, Senator, if we do not do it in the Parliament, it will also have a serious impact on the banking sector in Dominica. And I agree with you, we engage United States of America in serious negotiations over this, because this is really a profoundly intrusive piece of legislation. Because what it has done, and we have come to the Parliament to amend laws to allow this as a precursor, to the amendments to the laws as a precursor to passing this legislation. Because under the Income Tax Act, your tax information in Dominica is private, which means that it cannot be shared with a third party. Not even myself, that the comptroller in revenue is not even answerable to me in respect to sharing tax information to me. He may tell me how much tax is owed. You see what I'm saying? But he's not obligated to share this with me or anybody else. So, and that will also involve the U.S. authorities, obviously by a court order, having access to Americans who are resident in Dominica or elsewhere, their tax information in Dominica. And the banks here, all of the banks, with no exception, are obligated, whether we pass this legislation or not, whether we pass this or not in Dominica, it will be imposed upon us. It has already been in effect. It's in effect, really. And if the banks here refuse to provide the U.S. authorities with the banking information on their citizens, then you will be automatically cut off of the correspondent banking relationship. Okay? So while I understand your issue, your concern has nothing to do with Dominicans who have no American citizenship. Okay? It is dealing with American citizens, whether by birth or naturalization. You have taken an oath. You carry a U.S. passport. You'll be subject to that, no matter where you reside in the world. Okay, so this has been imposed on the entire globe and so forth. And delaying this passage, Madam Speaker, could have a serious negative implication for those of us who are only Dominican citizens here residing. And while I understand the anxieties of the senator, some of which I have shared very long now, this is the reality of the world, that there are external decisions and external shocks which we have no control over, but we have to respond to. So the FATCA has been around for a very long time now, maybe at least 5 to 6, 7 years. There's been discussion about FATCA and the U.S. Congress passing legislation for many years, and so forth. Okay?
Back to my point with the observations of the Honorable Prime Minister. Our responsibility in Dominica is to protect our citizens. The responsibility of America is to protect its citizens. What the Prime Minister has not said, that this bill relates to dual citizenship. In other words, you're American citizen and you're Dominican citizen. These are the people I'm concerned about. And the act also, the bill, well, I can't say the act, the bill will also relate to residents, Dominicans who have American residency. The bill also speaks about accounts that has a U.S. address attached to it. You may not be a residency, you may not be a citizen, but the point I am making is this. I understand the intent of the legislation. And not only that, the bill references 2014, which suggests to me that possibly this agreement may have been in existence for a while. And it's only because of the limitations in enforcing the agreement that it becomes necessary.
Madam Speaker, all due respect to the senator. The senator...
Let me just conclude.
No, please.
Can I just conclude?
No, please. Let us speak. Please, Madam Speaker. You are debating the legislation.
I'm not.
You are debating it. No, I'm saying you're debating it. You're debating the legislation. You have... We have only agreed this year to sign the agreement. And as a matter of fact, the agreement has not been signed. We have the Cabinet taking a decision to assign the Finance Secretary as the signatory on behalf of the government of Dominica. Right? So we come here to Parliament to seek parliamentary approval to proceed with this. This is... If you become American citizen by way of green card holder, that's your choice. You're subjecting yourself to certain rules and regulations by the United States. You see what I'm saying? You're subjecting yourself to that. And if you become a dual citizen, you are subjecting yourself to that. So this is what it is. So you'll have an opportunity to debate it when you get a point.
Okay, don't repeat, just say the new point.
The point I'm saying, there is need for more information, public information, particularly the stakeholders. This bill is going to affect. And this has not been done. And I'm respectfully requesting the House allow more time so that the people this bill will impact are aware of the communication.
Okay, so can we start, please?
Yeah, we're going to debate. Madam Speaker, government and multilateral agencies around the world.
No. Oh, no. Or that doesn't go to the to be thing. It's not a motion. No. You wrote on a point of order. I heard you. It's a question of whether the point of order is satisfactory or not. Yes, you see, you see, that's the thing. It's a point of order you're making. And so that you rose on a point of order. So we are carrying on, please.
Not me guys catching that trick.
Madam Speaker, I moved
Madam
the second.
Speaker.
Yes, so repeat it. I moved the second reading.
We have to repeat it.
Yeah, repeat it because it got lost in the scheme of things.
Madam Speaker, I move the second reading of the bill shortly entitled Foreign Account Act Compliance, United States of America Act 2018.
Right. Seconded?
Seconded, yes, Madam.
Okay, you make your... Right.
Madam Speaker, government and multilateral agencies around the world have expressed concerns about tax compliance in their respective jurisdictions, and most have taken decisions which they hope will increase the level of tax compliance among the taxpayers. The government of the United States of America is one of those countries which has adopted such measures. In that regard, the U.S. government has mandated that countries must sign on to the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Agreement, FATCA. FATCA has implications for conducting banking business in the United States. All commercial banks will be required to provide information requested by the government of the United States through the competent authority. The competent authority for these matters is the Comptroller of Inland Revenue Division. Failure to sign on to or to implement the provisions of FATCA will affect a bank's ability to do business with banks in the United States of America. Countries are therefore given no choice but to participate and to sign on to FATCA. The FATCA agreement was signed by the government of Dominica and the United States of America on June 14, 2018. The bill before the Parliament at this time seeks to give legal effect to the agreement. Madam Speaker, the full title of the bill is the Act to give legal effect to and to provide for the implementation of the provisions of the agreement between the government of the United States of America and the government of Dominica to improve international tax compliance and to implement the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act and to provide for related matters. Madam Speaker, the following paragraphs summarize the contents of the bill. Section 1(2) provides for the Act to come into force on a date determined by order of the Minister for Finance and published in the Gazette. Section 2 contains the definitions of the key terms. The term reporting financial institution is used to define those financial institutions which will be required to report based on the signed agreement. According to Section 3, the agreement shall have the force of law in Dominica. In accordance with Section 4, changes made to the agreement may be amended by an order made by the Minister for Finance. Madam Speaker, for purposes of the legislation, the Comptroller of Inland Revenue is defined as the competent authority. The competent authority will act on behalf of the Minister of Finance, who is identified in the agreement. Among other things, the competent authority shall exchange information in accordance with the agreement. the competent authority may exercise all powers vested in him under the Income Tax Act to administer and possess any request made under the agreement and render reciprocal assistance to facilitate the administration of the agreement. The competent authority may request a reporting financial institution to furnish to him at a time and in a manner that the competent authority may determine information and data required for the proper discharge of his functions and responsibilities under this Act or the agreement. A reporting financial institution which, without lawful excuse, fails to comply with a request made under subsection 5 is guilty of an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine. It is suggested that the fine be an amount of $10,000 EC. Section 6 deals with confidentiality required in undertaking the task prescribed under the agreement. Any person engaged in carrying out the provisions of or having any official duty under the agreement shall treat all documents and information relating to any person and confidential information with respect to the administration of the agreement which comes to his knowledge in the course of performing his duties as confidential. That obligation continues to apply to a person who ceases to be the competent authority or otherwise involved in carrying out the provisions of the agreement. A person who contravenes the confidentiality provisions is guilty of an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine. The proposed fine is 5,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars and 1 year imprisonment. Under Section 7, the competent authority shall not consent to the use or transmission by the government of the United States of America of information provided under this Act or agreement for purposes, investigations, or proceedings other than those stated in the agreement, unless the transmission or use is authorized by the court. In Section 9, a financial institution shall appoint a reporting officer to maintain arrangements for the identification of reportable accounts. In accordance with Section 10, a reporting financial institution shall apply the due diligence procedures set out in Annex 1 of the agreement to identify U.S. reportable accounts and accounts held by non-participating financial institutions. The due diligence requirements do not apply to a financial account if the reporting financial institution maintains the account as a result of a merger with or acquisition of a qualifying financial institution which had established the U.S. status of the account holder and any controlling person. A reporting financial institution shall establish and maintain arrangements that are designed to identify payments which are made by the reporting financial institution to a non-participating financial institution and payment to non-participating financial institution. Madam Speaker, a reporting financial institution is required to register to obtain a unique global intermediary identification number that is issued by the United States Internal Revenue Service, IRS. Immediately after registering on the FATCA registration website, a reporting financial institution shall register with the competent authority in the form and manner approved by the competent authority using the unique number issued by the IRS. In Section 13, a reporting common for Dominica financial institution shall, in respect of the first reporting year as specified in the agreement, and every following calendar year, submit the relevant reports. Notwithstanding the Banking Act of 2015, the Financial Services Unit Act of 2008, or any other law that restricts the disclosure of confidential information, a reporting financial institution shall communicate or allow to be communicated any confidential information in the return required to be reported by the competent authority under the agreement. In Section 16, a reporting financial institution shall keep records that a financial institution obtains or creates for the purpose of complying with the Act including self-certifications and records of documentary evidence. A financial institution shall retain records for a period of at least 6 years. Madam Speaker, there are penalties associated with non-compliance with this legislation. Under Section 18, a reporting financial institution who fails to make a return as and when required under this Act is liable to a penalty of $5,000 for such failure and a penalty of $2,000 for each month or part of a month that the failure continues. A reporting financial institution who makes a false statement or omission in respect of any information required to be included in a return under this Act is liable to a penalty of $50,000 for each such failure, unless in the case of information required in respect of another person, a reasonable effort was made by the person to obtain the information from the other person. A reporting financial institution which fails, without lawful excuse, to provide accurate information in response to a request is liable to a penalty of $10,000. A reporting financial institution who does not comply with the requirement of the competent authority in the exercise or performance of the competent authority's functions or powers under this Act is liable to a penalty of $50,000 for each such failure. In Section 19, liability to a penalty does not arise if the reporting financial institution satisfies the competent authority or appeal commissioners that there is a reasonable excuse for the failure. The Act defines what is a reasonable excuse in the circumstances. If a reporting financial institution becomes liable to a penalty, the competent authority shall assess the penalty and notify the person of the assessment. This is provided for in Section 20. A reporting financial institution shall pay any penalty imposed for failure to submit a return or for failure to submit a correct return or any other penalty. This is provided for in Section 21. A reporting financial institution may object to a penalty assessment made by the competent authority. The competent authority shall consider any valid objection made and may confirm or disallow the penalty by notice in writing within 30 days of receipt of an objection. Further, Madam Speaker, a reporting financial institution that is aggrieved by a decision of the competent authority may, by notice of appeal, appeal to the appeals commissioners as provided for in Section 24. Under Section 25, a reporting financial institution which refuses to or fails without lawful excuse to provide any information required to be provided under this Act is guilty of an offense and is liable in summary conviction to a fine of $50,000. In order to address the matter of costs associated with the implementation of the Act, Section 27 makes provision for the parties to reach some agreement on the apportioning of costs. Madam Speaker, the bill gives the Minister authority to make regulations to give effect to the provisions of the agreement and the Act where deemed necessary. Madam Speaker, in the weeks and months ahead, Government will propose other legislative changes to give effect to commitments that government is required to make to various countries and institutions. I should add, Madam Speaker, that these commitments are demanded of other countries also, not just Dominica. And it is true to say that if we take no action, our ability to do business with the rest of the world will be negatively affected. I therefore, Madam Speaker, commend this bill to the House for its favorable consideration. Thank you.
The bill is before the House for debate.
As I said, I have no objections to the intent of the bill. I understand the purpose. I understand the right of the American government, or any government for that matter, to ensure that they have maximum collection of revenue due from their citizens. I also recognize the importance of having control and preventing or discouraging money laundering, which such bills will facilitate. The reason why I'll be very brief, because as I've made some point, but just for the record, that is why the only reason why I'm speaking on the bill actually. The bill here, which is about a couple pages, I think 3 articles, it's not really the main issue. It's the agreement, the contents of the agreement between that once it comes into effect between the government of Dominica and the United States of America. The bill makes provisions for what you might call, or the legal term might be more appropriate, retroactivity, to empower the banks that what this reporting commercial financial institution to go back to such accounts up to 2014.
No, that's wrong. I agree.
It requires that once it is discovered the account has more than $50,000 US in there, then, and the following qualifications, which I'll read, Madam Speaker, then it requires that the financial reporting institution reports this to the United States through, of course, the competent authority, which is the controller of inland revenue. And I may just quote from the area. Electronic record search. The reporting Commonwealth of Dominica financial institution must review electronically searchable data maintained by the reporting Commonwealth of Dominica financial institution for any of the following indicia, that is indicators. 1, identification of the account holder as a U.S. citizen or resident. 2, unambiguous indication of a U.S. place of birth. C, current U.S. mailing or residence address, including a U.S. post office box. D, current U.S. telephone number. E, standing instructions to transfer funds to an account maintained in the United States. F, currently effective power of attorney or signatory authority granted to a person with a U.S. address. Or an in-care of or hold mail address that is the sole address the reporting Commonwealth of Dominica financial institution has on file for the account holder. In the case of a pre-existing individual account that is in a low amount, in-care address outside of the United States address shall not be treated as a U.S. indicator. So, Madam Speaker, and when it proceeds, finally, if none of the U.S. indicia listed in subparagraph B1 of this section are discovered in the electronic search, then no further action is required until there is a change in circumstances that results in one or more of the U.S. indicator being associated. So what I'm saying, Madam Speaker, is this. I recognize the importance. However, the criteria for these accounts to be determined that it must be reported in the United States is not just residency. It's not just being a resident or a passport holder. There are many other things, including the basic fact that you have a U.S. telephone number address attached to the account. This is what the agreement says. So I'm suggesting, I'm saying again, reiterating simply, that this piece of legislation, regardless of the fact of its importance, understand why, the people it will be impacted, all Dominican citizens, need to be made aware of it and provide adequate information so they are knowledgeable of what the implications of their doing banking transaction between America and the Commonwealth of Dominica. And I rest my case.
Madam Speaker,
You may go ahead.
Madam Speaker, the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act before us is intended to give legal effect to an agreement that the government signed through the Financial Secretary, as I understand it, on the 14th of June this year. Is correct? 14th of June this year? Okay. And in that agreement, which we have already signed, or through that agreement that we've already signed, the United States, as I'm sure, based on the indication of the Prime Minister, it's doing with every other country in the world, really wants to keep track of its citizens and its green card holders and the monies that they have wherever they have it in the world. So those who are holding monies in Dominica, the U.S. government, the IRS, tax authority there, would want to know about it. So the United States is making arrangements for that to happen, for them to keep track of persons who are supposed to be putting money in the coffers of the U.S. Treasury and ensuring that wherever those monies are, or wherever they are keeping those monies, the U.S. authorities have sight of it, they have knowledge of it, and can make arrangements to collect the appropriate amount of taxes from these individuals. No argument to that. Governments all around the world do that. This is another level of sophistication in terms of finding U.S. citizens or having access to information on U.S. citizens wherever they are, or wherever their accounting information may be held in banks. They have an account there, or they have some money market instruments, whatever they are, insurance, coverage, whatever the U.S. will need to know or have an idea, the IRS, how much taxes you should be paying. Madam Speaker, with this, we hear of the competent authority to be set up in Dominica or to be empowered in Dominica, and that competent authority is going to be the Comptroller of Inland Revenue. And then the Comptroller of Inland Revenue will be required to be working with reporting financial institutions we understand to be banks. So if the U.S. has an interest, or the information that the U.S. wants will come from the competent authority, and the competent authority must get it from the reporting financial institutions. And then you have some confidentiality provisions to protect the privacy or the information of the U.S. citizens or green card holders in whom the American government has an interest. And those are really the citizens and green card holders with accounts in Dominica, for example, that have more than $50,000 in them. Is that 50,000 U.S. or EC? What's the currency of this legislation, U.S. or EC? No answer. U.S. The agreement is U.S. It's a U.S. agreement. Okay. But, Madam Speaker, this is going to mean new administrative burdens on the office of the competent authority. And I'm only mentioning that so that we are all aware that provision is going to have to be made for this competent authority to have the resources or the support necessary to deal with or handle what could sometimes become onerous reporting responsibilities in fulfilling the requirements placed on the request placed on the competent authority from time to time by the U.S. under this agreement. The question of confidentiality, Madam Speaker, and the provisions being made for fines and so on, and now if you breach, you could pay $5,000, 1 year in prison, and so on. We have some confidentiality issues in Dominica with our authorities. I know about that. I have personal experience with disclosure of information that is supposed to have been confidential. I know about these things. And I know the extent to which operatives of the government have access to information from institutions of government like the aid bank and so on, where those pieces of information are supposed to be confidential and kept between the institution and the client, end up in the hands of operatives of the Dominican Labour Party to do their propaganda work on the radio.
Member, that I consider to be imputing improper motive.
Of whom? Withdrawn.
You just said the operatives of the Dominican Labour Party. Who sits on the right side?
Withdrawn.
Good.
So, Madam Speaker, we need to pay attention to these confidentiality provisions and to take them seriously. And to avoid a situation where we might be falling over ourselves on the disagreement to protect the confidential information of U.S. citizens and green card holders, but not extending the same privilege to Dominicans living in Dominica. And just to say, in closing, Madam Speaker, because this was a very brief intervention, I welcome the explanation of the Prime Minister about the decisions that individuals make, citizens of the global community make, as to where they take citizenship, whether it be single citizenship, dual citizenship, triple or quadruple, doesn't matter. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order, please. Order, order, order. Winding up, Your Honor?
Yeah, Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Just to wind up, this government, Madam Speaker, we are part of the global community, and we take our role very seriously in terms of our own obligation, not only to our own national security, but regional security and international security. There will be things which countries and multilateral institutions impose on us which we may not agree with, but there are some things that we have to proceed with. And I believe the passage of this bill, the presentation of this bill to the Parliament, and hopefully its approval by this Parliament, would safeguard, one, the integrity of the country, but also very critically the existence, the financial ability to conduct business. Because you see, we have to take time as citizens and as legislators to understand how the world functions, to understand how multilateral institutions function, to understand how countries which make up the G7 and other such multilateral institutions take decisions which will have impact on you. And most of these decisions are taken without any consultation with you. But you're obligated to proceed with it. Otherwise, there could be sanctions. And one such sanction that could be imposed on the country is a financial advisory. And so while I hear the senator, for example, if we don't proceed with this, and the U.S. would impose some sanctions on us, the monies that we have in our accounts here as Dominicans, who only have Dominican citizenship, would be of no benefit to us, because we will not be able to transact with the rest of the world. You see what I'm saying? And Senator, the truth is, the number of points that you raised, I agree with. So there's not much at variance in regards to the points that you raised. But the fact is, I mean, another point is that, you know, we have to keep informing ourselves. I mean, the issue of FATCA has been around for a very long time. For a very long time. So anybody who is now a member of Parliament especially if you're seeking to remove a governmental comment, you must be familiar with these things. You have to be familiar with these things. These things are around for a long time. And therefore it's important for you to read. You see what I'm saying? You cannot. But that's a straightforward matter. That's a straightforward matter. I'm not sure even whether you could understand the long title. We haven't read it. No, I don't think you read many things. I don't think you read many things. I mean, I give you the shows, you all read it. But I hope he told you many other things. All right. All right. So, Madam Speaker, this is the reality of it. This is the reality of it, Madam Speaker. And as I said, it is not only an imposition on Dominica, it's an imposition on the global community. And you see, countries like Dominica, even the CARICOM, or if we even go beyond that, you do not have the reach that you have, because most countries utilize the US dollar to do transactions on their own. And if you do not have correspondent banking relationships, you will become worse than a village credit union. And this could have a serious impact on how you do business. How you do business. You will not be able to make payments. Even loan payments could be impacted. Even loan payments, because countries that are sanctioned are unable to, even if they have the money, are unable to pay their creditors, to procure goods and services, because they'll be utilizing the US dollar. And while I may have, and I do have, certain reservations about this bill and the agreement, the truth is, this is not about me. This is not about me. This is about the country. And the greater responsibility which I have to the whole of the country, and to ensuring that as far as practicable, the government takes the appropriate actions to work with the global community to enhance security and even to protect the citizens and residents of the United States of America in relation to this particular piece of legislation. So we are playing our part. The fact must be go, if we delay this or we don't pass it, or if we go into a division and the noes have it, that is inconsequential as far as the United States of America is concerned. So whether we sign the agreement or not, whether we don't pass this legislation, is of no consequence. But I believe by us signing the agreement, by us passing the legislation, it is sending a clear message not only to the United States of America, but to the global community, that as small as we are, we are prepared to play our part in global security and global peace. And in our fight against terrorism, our fight against the financing of terrorism. And this is why, Madam Speaker, you would have seen over the last several years, we have come to this Parliament to pass a wide range of legislation to ensure that Dominica, as far as possible, is compliant is compliant in respect to its own obligation to the rest of the global community. So this is what is, Madam Speaker. We could discuss this for a very long time, but I would urge citizens of the United States of America and residents of the United States of America to inform yourself, because this is already legislation. This has been legislation in the United States for a very long time. This law was passed by Congress many years ago. Many years ago. So it is already, I'm Senator Baptiste, it is, so your children are subjected to this many years ago. No, they're subjected to it many years ago, because it is an act of Congress. It is an act of Congress, and it's part of the legislative impositions of the United States of America. So it's important that you send them a text message, tell them, well, you better go and read this thing online in America, and make sure you're fully aware of this thing, because it can have an implication for you and so forth. And that's the reality. So I understand your apprehensions, and I dare say your anxieties over this. I see you laughing, my brother. But have I said that? Have I said that?
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the Foreign Accounts Tax Compliance United States of America Act of 2018 be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The act will now be read a second time.
Foreign Account Tax Compliance United States of America Act 2018.
The bill has been read a second time and will now be committed to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause. Okay. House resumes, and I have to report that the bill shortly entitled the Foreign Account Tax Compliance United States of America Act of 2018 passed the committee stage with a few amendments. The question is that the report on the committee be adopted. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Foreign Account Compliance United States of America Act 2018 be read a third time and passed.
Seconded.
The bill will now be read a third time.
Foreign Account Tax Compliance United States of America Act 2018.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly.
Madam Speaker, I move the second reading of the bill shortly entitled the Juries Amendment Act 2018. Seconded. Madam Speaker, I present the Juries Amendment Bill to this Honorable House. The parent act is called the Juries Act number 570 of the 1990 revised laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Madam Speaker, the making of a jury's list is vital to the sitting of the criminal court, as our trial system is a jury-based one. The procedure for creating a jury's list is outlined in sections 7 and 8 of the Juries Act. Sections 7 and 8 of the aforementioned Act require that between the 1st and 7th day of December of every year, the Registrar of the Supreme Court make out a list for the ensuing year of all the persons resident in the state who, in his opinion, are qualified to serve as jurors. Madam Speaker, the registrar must depend on the list supplied from the electoral office in order to create the jury's list to enable the commencement of the criminal division of the High Court. The electors' list, Madam Speaker, was received from the electoral division on the 9th of August 2018 due to the devastation and interruption in the business processes caused by Hurricane Maria. Madam Speaker, in light of the impending September session of the Criminal Division of the High Court, the Deputy Registrar has to make a list from the electors' list, and it was received, Madam Speaker, on the 9th day of August 2018, and she has to take the action that is compliant with Section 7 and 8 of the Juries Act. Madam Speaker, the action of the Deputy Registrar must be validated considering the late receipt and the publication of the jurors' list. Madam Speaker, an amendment to Section 7 of the Act is therefore needed to provide for an exemption to the existing provision. Madam Speaker, the only possible amendment to validate that action of the Deputy Registrar is an amendment which seeks to provide for unforeseen events that may occur and delay or prevent the registrar from making out and publishing the jurors' list. Once enacted, Madam Speaker, the amendment to the Act to validate any action taken by the Deputy Registrar in the preparation of the jurors' list for the September session of the High Court. In light of this, Madam Speaker, the necessary legislative amendment must be made to the Juries Act. The bills, Madam Speaker, therefore seek to amend the Jurors Act of Chapter 570 of the revised laws of Dominica. Madam Speaker, the bill comprises 3 sections. Section 3 of the bill contains relevant amendments and seek to repeal and replace Section 7 of the Juries Act by adding that where that the time period specified is not complied with due to an unforeseen event, the registrar shall, as soon as possible, prior to the 31st day of August the following year, comply with the provision of this section. Section 3 defines an unforeseen event to include any grave occurrence such as hurricane, storm, flood, high water, earthquake, volcanic eruption, landslide, drought, fire, explosion, among others. Madam Speaker, I therefore commend these very simple amendments to the Juries Act to this Honorable House. I thank you.
The bill is now before the House for debate.
Madam Speaker, this is a very simple measure, and I must say, Madam Speaker, 1 year after Hurricane Maria, it's important that we get our court back on track, especially our High Court. And Madam Speaker, I also want to express my gratitude to you for facilitating the process. And as I've heard from the registrar, Madam Speaker, the criminal court will actually commence in the second week of October, Madam Speaker. And I think our court getting back on track is critical to the rebuilding process of Dominica post-Maria, recognizing, of course, Madam Speaker, the court forms the foundation of our democratic process, Madam Speaker. So I also want to commend the efforts of the Registrar, Permanent Secretary, the Ministry of Justice, and Madam Speaker, this matter is before the Honorable House. So thank you.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly. It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the Juries Amendment Act of 2018 be read a second time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a second time.
Juries Amendment Act 2018.
The bill has been read a second time and will now be committed to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause. House resumes. And I have to report that the bill shortly entitled the Juries Amendment Act of 2018 passed the committee stage with just a minor amendment. The question is that the report on the bill be adopted. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled the Juries Amendment Act 2018 be read a third time and passed. Seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the Juries Amendment Act of 2018 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a third time.
Juries Amendment Act 2018.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly.
Madam Speaker, I move that this House be adjourned, sign it, I second.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second it. Can I second it twice?
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly and hear me. Oh my God. It has been moved and seconded that this honorable House be adjourned, sine die. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. This honorable House stands adjourned, sine die. See.